Hey everyone, back this week as promised with the broth video for Taishouken Morisoba. From what I learned and watched, Morisoba is the precursor to the dipping noodle style of ramen known as tsukemen, so what better way to start than from the beginning? In this pot, I got 2 stewing hens around 5 pounds in total. I'm going to also add in my frozen leftover pork shoulder and skin that I saved after butchering it previously for the cubados. The soup itself will be a triple stock of chicken, pork, and dashi, so it should be fairly complex in flavor, but clean as well since this stock will be a Chintan. Fill up the pot with water and make sure it covers mostly all the bones and meat. We'll bring this up to a boil, and when it does, begin to start skimming off the scum that rises to the top to ensure we have a clear stock. Once all the scum has been skimmed off, keep it at a relatively low simmer with little to no bubbles, and we'll keep it at this temperature for 3 hours. Yeah, I know that's long, but hey, that's ramen in a nutshell without a pressure cooker. While we wait for the stock to cook, I'm actually going to try making chashu a new way. I got some boneless pork shoulder right here that I'm going to cut into more manageable sized pieces. I'll take some twine and tie it up into a more uniform shape, and we'll be placing these in our broth once the 3 hours have passed. After those 3 hours, we will now place some chopped up aromatics. I have some scallions, a small knob of ginger, and some garlic. This will help perfume the oil that's on the top, which will be our aroma oil later. Proceed to add in your tied up pork shoulder as well, and we're going to continue to keep this stock at a bare simmer for around 1.5 to 2 hours, or until the pork is tender. Time to check our pork shoulder. Take it out of the stock and then poke it with a chopstick, fork, or knife. If it goes through relatively easily, then it should be good to go. I'm now going to place it in a Ziploc bag alongside some new shoyu tare I made beforehand. This will help season the pork a bit and also impart some extra pork flavor into our tare as well, so the best of both worlds. Chill the Ziploc bag in some ice water and let this rest for 1 hour before we take out our pork. Back to our soup. Place 10 grams of kombu into the stock and let this simmer for 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes, time to get a strainer and add in 10 grams of katsuboshi as well into the stock and let this steep for 15 minutes. It's finally time to strain our stock. Press out all the liquid from the katsuboshi before we start straining out the soup. I do like Way of Ramen's technique of taking a ladle and scooping out the soup through a strainer to maintain maximum clearness of the Chintan stock, although if you're not too crazy about that, just strain it however you like. Now for the actual day of making my bowl of ramen, I'm going to make the final 2 items, which is the sweet vinegar and fish powder. For the sweet vinegar, all it is 100 grams of rice vinegar with 50 grams of sugar, and we're going to heat this up until all the sugar is melted, and that's it. For the fish powder, all I did was take some katsuboshi and then use a food processor until it becomes almost like dust. Both of these, not too difficult to make. Now to prep our soup. I have stored these overnight in some quart containers, and you can see how the fat rose to the top. We want to scoop up all the fat as it will be used as our aroma oil. You can also see how jiggly and gelatinous this broth is, which is what we're aiming for. When it's finally time to make our ramen, I'm going to first cut up the twine for my chashu, and then start cutting it into chunks. Grab your ramen bowl, place a tablespoon of aroma oil, 2 tablespoons of tare, a teaspoon of fish powder, and a teaspoon of sweet vinegar. Now that we prepped our bowl, we just need to heat up our stock and also boil our tsukemen noodles, which was my video from last week. I'll leave a link below if you want to try and make it. We're going to boil these noodles for 3 minutes before we shock it with cold water to firm them up again. When our soup is boiling, we will add in 200 milliliters of soup, or around 2 scoops of this ladle I have, to our prepped up bowl. I forgot to mention that I added some scallions in the bottom beforehand, and we'll also add in our pieces of chashu and a boiled egg as well. When the noodles are done, take a strainer and place it on it, then run it under some cold water so we can firm up the noodles before we can finally start to eat it. To eat it, all you gotta really do is take some noodles, dip it in the broth, which should be saltier than your typical ramen, and then slurp for maximum enjoyment. This is definitely a lot of effort, which is why I made it for my friends since they're my homies, and it's all love for them. So that's how you make some Taishouken Morisoba. Not sure how legitimate it is to the real thing, but this tasted really good. And, I'm sure your friends will appreciate all that effort and love you put into making all of this if you ever decide to make it. So let me know what you think if you do. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my video, and if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe and follow my Instagram at WeCanCooks. Thanks for your support, everyone.